Good. On the screen. Where's myself? Good. Okay. Sure.
Okay, teacher, we are ready for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kobe. Okay, good morning, guys. My name is Lucky Kazi. I am your presenter for Natural Sciences, Grade 5. Please do follow us on Twitter. It's at African Teen Geeks. Also, follow us on Twitter on DBE. It's at DBE_SA. Hashtag STEM Champions. And also follow me on my Twitter account. It's at Lakekazi. Let's start our lesson. And thank you so much for joining the class as we start. I want you guys at the end of the lesson to identify and know the following: that Earth has plants and animals. Also, for this lesson, you will learn about different types of animals with skeletons and animals without skeletons. And as we go deeper into the lesson, you will learn more about the different kinds of life cycle. You also learn about the food chain as well. If we can look at the picture where it shows, it's a picture of Earth. It shows that Earth has water, there's land, there's different interesting animals, and there are different non-living things on Earth, which we also depend on. Let's look at picture number 2. Picture number 2, it will be it's a picture depicting a food chain. And most important part of the food chain is that you have to follow the sequence of the arrows in order for you to understand and comprehend the food chain. Then the last picture, it's a picture of different animals with skeletons. And guys, please do send me your questions. Do inbox me if you do have any concerns, and also answer any questions that I ask you. Okay. There are many different plants and animals living in different habitats on Earth. As we know that in South Africa, we do have our own indigenous plants and indigenous animals, which are important and significant to our nation. Interdependent. Plants and animals depend on each other. We all know that there's a lion and also let's say perhaps a cow or a springbok. We can say that a lion depends on a springbok, and a springbok depends on what? On grassland. They also depend on the resources available, such as water, air, food, and places to hide for their protection. Animal types. There are many different kinds of animals on Earth. Some do have bones and some have harder outer, just like a snail. A snail has we can say a hard shell, including a tortoise. A tortoise has a hard shell. Some have bones and some do not have bones. Then animals without animals with skins or shell, we call them invertebrates. And some animals with bones, we call them vertebrates. Let's look at our picture on the bottom of the screen. As you can see, it's invertebrates versus vertebrates. Let's focus for now on vertebrates. There's a fish. Fish does have bones, And a bird does have bones, and all these animals here on this side, they do have bones. Therefore, we call them vertebrates. Then on the other side, it's invertebrates. These are animals without bones. A snail doesn't have bones. What's this? A starfish doesn't have bones, and a locust doesn't have bones as well. Then for now, let's look at the picture of a food chain. And please do understand that it's always important for you, in order for you to understand the food chain, it's always important for you to start off by the plant. As you can see, there's grass. That's where the food chain starts. And also, do follow the sequence of the arrows. Do follow the sequence of the arrows in order for you to completely understand the food chain. Let's start our food chain. This is grass. Therefore, this grasshopper depends on the grass. Then, this frog here depends on the grasshopper. Therefore, the snake also depends on the frog. Therefore, the sequence of the arrows are very important in order for you to understand the food chain. Okay, food chain and feeding. Green plants make their own food and build their branches and stems using water and carbon dioxide. From the air and oxygen from sunlight, plants use carbon dioxide from the air and release oxygen into the air. It's quite tricky, but I hope you guys understand. Animals need food to carry out their life process, to move, to feed, to grow, to sense the environment, to excrete, to breathe, and to reproduce. All animals depend on plants as their primary source of food. We do have herbivores, carnivores, and omnivores. I'll explain furthermore about these three different types of animals. A food chain describes the feeding relationship between plants and animals, which is the food chain I have unpacked for you at the beginning of the slide. As I said earlier, a food chain starts with a plant and proceeds to other organisms or animals. Okay. Also, a food chain includes the transfer of energy which flows from the plant through to the last animal in the food chain. Animals with skeletons. These are animals with skeletons, as you can see at the bottom of the screen. There's an elephant, there's a horse, there's a hyena, there's a dog, and there's a whale. And there are so many other animals which have bones, we call them vertebrates. These animals here on the bottom of the screen, we call them vertebrates. Then there's a snail. A snail doesn't have bones. Therefore, we call it invertebrate. And joints, all of these animals do have joints. They can bend their knees, they can jump, they can do so many things because of their joints, which help them to become so flexible. Bones are hard and form a strong frame shell. A skeleton provides support for an animal's body and protection for its organisms. As you know as well, as we are human beings do have skeletons as well, of which these skeletons help us to carry our weight and to move from one place to another. Animals do have skull, and the skull protects their brain. Animals with bones, they do have what you call a backbone to protect their spinal cord. Animals do have ribs to protect their lungs and heart, as much as you and I, we do have our own ribs to protect our lungs and to protect our heart. Okay, then the movement. Vertebrates are animals which can move. These animals are animals which can be considered to be flexible. These are animals which are more flexible compared to animals with bones. Have you imagined yourself seeing a snail moving on a branch of a tree? It is so flexible. It can move or it can change directions instantly compared to animals with bones. Muscles attached to the skeletons, joints between the movement. These are animals which are heavy. These are animals which do have heavy bones. And one thing we have to understand, guys, is that if an animal breaks its bone, it will take time for the animal to recover compared to a snail, which is so flexible. Some invertebrate skeletons are shell structured, such as that of a crab. A crab does have bones. Okay, let's look at the life cycle. I think, guys, we are, because of the technical glitches, we did not manage to finish some of the lessons on time, and so we are only allocated 45 minutes of the lesson, and I think I'm left with 15 minutes, and so please bear with me as I will speed through the lesson. Okay, the life cycle. Let me show you how the life cycle works. As you know, where does a chicken come from? Which is a big argument. Some people say it started with a chicken. Some people say it starts with an egg. But I'm not here for that. A growth and development of animals. Plants and animals grow and develop through their lives. A life cycle describes the stages and processes that take place as a plant or animal grows and develops. A life cycle describes how one generation of a plant or animal gives rise to the next generation through reproduction. Is there anyone who wants to ask me a question? Please do inbox me. You can send me any question that you want. And many animals care for their babies in order for them to grow. Let's look at the pictures here. This will be an adult frog, and this will be a froglet. Then it will be a tadpole, and these will be the eggs. there's always a life process of animals. And so I want you now to draw a table and list 5 types of vertebrates and 5 types of invertebrates. And so you can do it on your own spare time to try and see if you can remember or if you can recall what you guys have learned in this lesson. You can also draw and label the life cycle of a butterfly. Okay, and whenever you answer the questions on Facebook, please do tag us. It's hashtag lockdown eschools. And a takeaway message for today's lesson is that all living and non-living things depend on each other for their existence. To preserve the environment and look after it. This network now. Okay, helpful links which you can use after the lesson. Here's a link that you can use to further your knowledge about this topic that we have unfolded today. Okay, thank you so much. Follow us as well at African Team Gigs, hashtag lockdown. And please do remember to also participate in other classes. Thank you so much and goodbye.